Yes, good afternoon all. So have you seen the paper, 2016 paper now? Yes, no. I think we have done case studies in the last part. Okay, last class. So we are going to start today with the probity in governance. Okay. Probity in governance is the second part, that is applied part. Whatever we have studied so far, that is, we have to see the application of these parts into the governance. Okay. Probity in governance, the literal meaning of probity is, literal meaning is uprightness. Uprightness. Lekin probity in governance in general, it represents the integrity and honesty in governance. Honesty and integrity in governance. Something which can be brought through the structural and structural mechanisms and through different processes and principles in governance. There are certain structural consideration plus functional consideration within the governance through which we can bring the honesty and integrity. Okay, so in general, this probity word is a generic in nature, in a sense that it represents honesty, integrity. It represents the ethics in governance. Okay, in other words, it is ethics in governance. Ethics in governance. And this philosophy is represented in contemporary time in the idea of good governance. Okay, so these are the one and the same all, in a sense that what is bad governance, against this context we have to see these all things. Ethics in governance, good governance, honesty and integrity in governance. So overall, moral governance, good governance, ethical governance is the aspects that we have to discuss. Now, first, we will discuss what is not good governance, okay, with respect to what is malgovernance, misgovernance, etc. I think we have discussed this in the first class also, when I was talking about the introduction of this paper, okay. So, we will just revise those things, okay, just write, that is first, that different features of malgovernance or misgovernance, different features of malgovernance or misgovernance. Malgovernance is something which is bad in nature, something which is not a good governance. Yes, what are the things of bad governance? In fact, these are the problems of governance against which we have to discuss the idea. Problems of governance. Problems of governance. Yes, can you tell? Corruption, yes. What else? Red tape, nepotism, indiscipline, okay. Favoritism. Nexus can be a good also. Unholy nexus. Nexus between whom? Google and Android. Politician and bureaucratic class. Politician and corporate class. Okay. Politico-corporate administrative nexus. Yes. What else? Lack of activism. Okay. Proactivism. Crony capitalism. Parochialism. Okay. So all are correct. We'll write more systematically. So first you write, there is misuse of power. misuse of power or illegitimate use of power. Illegitimate use of power. In fact, that single thing which can like summarize everything. Then if you misuse the power, it will lead into the corruption. Okay, that's the second aspect. Problem is with respect to corruption, nepotism, favoritism, cronism, or crony capitalism. Okay, cronism or crony capitalism. Now this corruption, we are talking about financial benefits with regard to misuse of power. Financial benefits, nepotism, if you are favoring the family members. Favoritism, you are favoring anyone based upon the not objective criteria but any other criteria which you should not use, but you have favored someone based upon caste, religion, creed. Crony capitalism, you have favored one group of person, okay, business person over there. See, the thing is, there is a difference in between when we say about crony capitalism and cronism. This is not saying that you should not favor the capitalist class, okay. That's not the thing here, okay. We can have a relationship with capitalism, which is an intrinsic feature. Here we are talking about one or two capitalists are favored over the others. Are you understanding? Crony capitalism is not against the capitalism. It is against the unholy nexus with respect to few of the capitalist class. Are you understanding? So what we are essentially talking here is there has to be a equality of opportunity or equal treatment to all the capitalist class rather than having a preferential treatment with respect to one or two persons. Have you understood? So that's a nexus. Then see, the thing is, misuse of power and this corruption will ultimately lead into the delay in public service delivery. Delay in public service delivery. Now, this delay in public service delivery that we call as a red tapeism. Okay. Red tapeism. Now, particularly this red tape world is specifically talking about the procedural delays. Procedural delays out of complex procedures. Out of complex procedures, rules, laws, etc., etc. Okay, sometimes procedures are complex, they are redundant, they have their origin in the past, that is in the British era. Complex procedures. Okay, and why this complex procedure? Because we are still following the age-old procedures. Okay, those during the time of Britishers. So that is called as the red tape. Then you can say, so here the 3 points are more important. Again, there are structural points. Then you can say that lack of transparency. Lack of transparency in administration. Lack of transparency. Weak accountability. Weak accountability. Weak accountability. Now, transparency and accountability will be less if it will result into inefficient and ineffective governance. Governance, character, inefficiency, inefficient and ineffective. Weak accountability. Lack of transparency. Inefficient and ineffective. Inefficient and ineffective governance. Inefficient and ineffective governance. Then there are certain issues with respect to the attitude also. I can write separately, although we have discussed a lot on this. So there can be certain structural problems like transparency, accountability, etc. So there are structural problems in administration also, but there are issues with regard to attitude of people who are serving. So there are two types of problems. One is structural and one is related with the human resource. Okay. So attitude, that is bureaucratic apathy. Okay, we have written it many times. Bureaucratic apathy, or what is the sort of an attitude? Elitist attitude. status quoist, yes, all these things will come together. Status quoist, elitist, and bureaucratic apathy. Bureaucratic apathy, you can extend it writing that is, it is insensitivity and indifference towards the public problems, especially towards the weaker section of society. Okay, elitist and the status quoist, or write one more word, that is a rigid attitude. Rigid attitude. एक ही है ये सब. Okay, bureaucratic attitude, elitist. Yes, you are saying something? Rigidity. Okay. So rigid attitude. Okay, so these are the some of the same things. This attitudinal change is also required. So there are certain attitudinal problems with respect to bureaucracy. Apart from that, there are problems like weak public participation, people's participation. Not to a satisfactory level. Okay, I'll discuss this, what is public participation later on. Then there is the issue with respect to politicization of bureaucracy. Politicization of bureaucracy. In fact, there are two terms here. One is criminalization of politics and politicization of bureaucracy. Criminalization of politics and politicization of bureaucracy. Criminalization. How criminalization of politics affect the administration? Yes. Yes, have the influence. Okay. Think of if goons will enter into the politics. Now, if goons will enter, certainly the relationship between the civil servants and the politician will not be very sober one. Okay. So criminals is going to use, or rather misuse their power in order to threaten the honest civil servants. Okay. Through fear, through intimidation, they will make them work. Like criminalization of politics. What is politicization of bureaucracy? Yes, biased. Okay. Biased in a sense that you identify bureaucrats and then try to like give certain incentives, okay, promotions, transfer, etc., etc. So ultimately the message will go into the civil servants, okay, if I have to be in good terms with the political class, then only I can, yes, I can grow over a period of time. So that is the politicization of bureaucracy and criminalization of politics. This is the larger part, okay. This is a, what you can say, that systemic reforms is required. It has nothing to do only with the bureaucracy as such. It's a overall atmosphere in which the governance is happening. Yes, you are saying so? Anonymity is not a, is it a problem or is it a, how problem? Okay, fine. How problem? Pardon, can you come again? I still didn't get you. No, let her explain. She has a point, huh? Okay, good. Yes. Okay. So that's problem. But the thing is, it's nothing like that. Even if public are not responding, public will respond against the politician. So it's not that bureaucrats are not accountable at all. Politician is going to make the bureaucrats accountable. They will make their life hell. Okay. So there is a pressure, tremendous pressure. But yes, there is certainly a problem. But there are different aspects. If the anonymity is removed, then there are other aspects such as like the bureaucrats will also start acting like a politicians, like to satisfy the test buds of masses. They will try to serve rather than thinking more rationally. Okay, so what is important from the what we call as a populist measures. So populist measures may not be always the rational measures. So for that, the anonymity. And again, it's not that there is no accountability at all. Okay, there is accountability, but yes, there are problems of anonymity. I will say that there is a rather different problem altogether, not with respect to the public, but since the political class is accountable, so that puts a pressure on the bureaucratic class. If anything and everything that is being said by the political class, you have to remain anonymous and remain silent about it. In fact, this has to be looked with respect to political neutrality. So, say for example, if government policies are wrong, okay, or for that matter, you think that there is no merit in the policies, in such cases, you really can't have a conversation with the public and disseminate that information. Look, this policies is not so correct. But this is how the democracy works. Okay, democracy is all about majority. Okay, so political representatives are the direct representatives of people, so they have the larger say, and bureaucrats are more of appointed people, so they have the lesser say. But yes, there are problems. Certainly, there are many problems. Politicization of bureaucracy, etc. So these are all overall problems. Misuse of power, corruption, delay, lack of transparency, weak accountability, inefficiency and effectivity, attitudinal problems, weak participation, politicization of bureaucracy, etc., etc. Against this context, we are going to see what is a good governance. Okay, what are the aspects of good governance and etc. So just write that the features of good governance. Okay, features of good governance. General features करके लिखो, general features of good governance, because there are certain 8 technical points as given by the World Bank. Okay, we are going to see that later. What is the 8 points and etc. So here we are just trying to understand what is good governance, and then we'll go to the World Bank's definitions. Like, we will put it very simple. We'll just have to like reverse it. Okay, misuse of power, legitimate use of power. Okay, right, first, that is a legitimate use of power, or legitimate use of, in fact, it is called as authority in a proper way. Okay, legitimate use of power or authority. Power has a negative connotation, whereas the authority has a positive connotation. Okay, legitimate use of power. So naturally, legitimate use of power is not used for the ruling class, but it is for the people's interest. So in fact, the natural corollary of this is that is it. Second is it is a citizen-centric or people-centric governance. Good governance. Second is a people-centric or citizen-centric governance. Good governance का second feature, people-centric or citizen-centric governance. In fact, that's a natural corollary of first part. What is a legitimate use of power? That is, power should be used for the public interest and not for the sake of the ruling class or personal interest or crony capitalism, etc., etc. Okay. Third, you can just again repeat this: corruption-free government. Corruption-free government. Next is speedy public service delivery. Speedy and timely, whichever way you want to write. Speedy or timely public service delivery. Public service delivery. Okay, transparency. Next is, our government is transparent. That is transparency. Next is, no, there are tens and thousands of ways of transparency. It can be RTI, it can be, transparency means the decision whenever you are taking, the government, the people should know about it. So through e-governance, and those are the practical mechanisms. Here we are learning principles. So when we'll discuss this e-governance, we have a separate chapter that we'll discuss that how this practical tools of implementation. E-governance is a practicing the transparency, one way of practicing the transparency. Okay? Lack of transparency, ब्रैकेट में लिख सकते हो आप RTI and e-governance. Okay, ब्रैकेट में लिखो just RTI and e-governance. Weak accountability के strong accountability mechanisms. Strong accountability. Strong accountability. Okay, attitude में bureaucratic apathy से क्या हो जाएगा यहाँ पे empathy and compassion. Empathy and compassion particularly towards the weaker section of the society. Elitist से public service oriented. Public oriented लिखो. Public oriented or public service. Status quoist से change oriented. Status quoist means as it is. So it is a change oriented. Rigid attitude to more flexible and responsive attitude. Flexible, rigid say flexible and more responsive. Change oriented, flexible. We have discussed a lot. और ये एक ही चीज़ अलग अलग प्रकार से लिखी गई है, ठीक है? Weak public participation, so people's participation is at the heart of good governance. Okay, just write people's participation. People's participation is at heart of good governance. इसमें कुछ ऐसे specific नहीं लिखा जाएगा. Just it's like we have already have this political neutrality and this thing. These are more of a malaise which is impacting this all other aspect. Because of criminalization of politics, these all problems are happening. Because of politicization, these all problems are happening. In fact, this is a broader part of electoral reform. Okay, in electoral reform, the kind of the elections that we call, although we call it as a free and fair election, but in India, the elections are being fought on the basis of muscle power, liquor, money, etc. So who uses muscle power, liquor and money, apart from caste and religion? It's the gun, local gun. So once the local gun enter into the politics with spending ample of amount of money, so they have to is get that cost that they have invested, and not just the cost but the profit also. So naturally, if you have invested in lot of money in election, so once you get elected, you are bound to become uncorrupt because you have already invested a ample amount of money in the election. Plus, in addition to the cost of election, you will also want to earn and prepare for the next election also. So the cycle, it's a vicious cycle. Okay, the more money, more criminal element, more maladministration, and the cycle gets repeated. So therefore, there's a very, very basic thing in democracy, that electoral reform. Okay, electoral reform, that's another topic altogether. So that's about the general features of good governance. Now, write some general points with regard to good governance. Okay, just write good governance. Pardon? Training capacity. I didn't get you. Trained? Incapacity. Okay, incapacity is, yes, you can write incompetent are also there, but the thing is, by and large, when we go through this examination, UPSC, so generally you are competent, but yes, you are not competent with respect to what we call using that IQ level to the advantages of the society. Okay, or for that matter, this problem is there with respect to lower bureaucracy. Okay, incapacity is there because people are literate, but they do not have the soft skills of governance. So in that regard, there is a lack of capacity. Yes, you can. Okay, incapacity with respect to various things. Various things in a sense that, in fact, there is a broad debate. Okay, rather than bad and good, there is a debate, generalist versus specialist in bureaucracy, generalist versus specialist. Now there are both points for and against this aspect, generalist versus specialist. Sometimes we say that they are incompetent, therefore specialists should be there. Yes, there is no doubt specialists should be there. But then it's also a problem when the specialist is there, he only think of his department and his thing. He does not take into account the other consideration of long-lasting impact on the other sector, or एक रहता ना कि bird's eye view, macro view also you should have. So you have to see the pragmatism also. You have to see how a particular thing affects the different sectors also, etc. So in that regard, we need a generalist also who should have an opinion about different things. But then if you bring the generalist, then there is a problem of incompetency, particularly in contemporary time, because post-globalization, now there is a trend towards the specialization. Everything now you require a specialist. You do not, like 70s and 80s was the philosophy where generalist job and little bit of training to them, it was fine. But post-globalization, there are various themes have emerged, and in each department you require a specialist. Okay, so again there are two things: you train them more towards a specific sector, generalist, or you bring the specialist and have a coordination with them. Okay, so that's the thing. There is a problem, but then how to like bring? See, the thing is, in many of the technical posts, you have this IES examination, like Indian Engineering Services. So these are the specialists. So it's not that the administration is only run by the generalists. Generalists are sort of a managerial post, okay, administrative post. But beyond administrative post, whenever there is a technical department, you will invariably find people from the technical background. Indian Engineering Services, Indian Economic Services, Audit Services, okay, health sector. Say. So in all sector also we have the specialists, but still it matters a lot, okay, that a person specialist, even if it is there, and generalist if it is there, and if both the things are not in the same person, there is a problem with respect to policy coordination. Problem with respect to coordination, because he never understand his perspective, he never understand his perspective, and therefore somewhere the policy coordination lacks. So it's always like the trend is coming that bureaucrats should also be made competent wherever they, like say for example, if IPS person is there, he should also be given a training of cyber security and etc. He should know all the nitty-gritties of cyber security. Now, you have a cyber security person from the engineering background who is a geek, who is a ethical hacker, etc., etc., but then he does not understand the larger perspective of governance. You have the people from the governance, but they don't understand the nitty-gritties of cyber security. Okay, so there is a problem, but there is also a limit what we can do with respect to a single person. So somewhere we have to also have a balance and coordination approach also. Okay, so that's about this generalist and specialist debate. Now, yes, what you have written? Good governance. Okay, you can write. See, there are different terms here when we are writing the good governance again. Government, governance, and then good governance. Government is a structural part, okay? Structural part of a state, represented in the form of institutional mechanism. Structural part of state represented in the form of different institutions. Structural part of state represented in the form of institutional mechanisms, different institutional mechanisms. So that's a structure. Governance is a, yes, functional part. Functional part. Okay, this involves different mechanisms, procedures, principles. This is a functional part which involves different mechanisms, procedures, and principles for functioning of state. That is while discharging the public service delivery. Okay. Functional part. That is different mechanisms, different processes, different principles which are involved in the functioning of state. So one is a structural part, another one is functional part. Now here, within the functional part, we are talking about what are the good functional part. Good functional part is something that what we have discussed just now, that transparency, accountability, rule of law, these are the functional aspect. You have created a state, but state in itself can be work on the different two bases. One is the bad basis, one is the good basis. So good governance is when you are functioning, there has to be certain mechanisms and principles on the basis of which you should deliver the governance. Okay, and that mechanism is nothing but in the form of whatever the features that we have discussed. This right? Good governance is an idea. Good governance is an idea or philosophy. Idea or philosophy that represents moral and ethical governance. That represents moral and ethical governance. Various principles such as rule of law, transparency, accountability. Various principles such as rule of law, transparency, accountability, public participation, etc., are incorporated in governance, so as to ensure ethical or moral governance. So as to ensure ethical or moral governance. Okay. So let me repeat, government is a structural. See, the thing is, it's all how do you define, but when the government term was first time used in the past, maybe any scholar must have talked about the state. Okay. And state रहेगा तो उसमें जो है government रहेगा ही रहेगा, ठीक है? So when the government word was used in the past, they never mean to say that it's only a structural aspect. Okay, implicit in it was if the government is created, there must be certain function, and the function has to be certain good function. Okay, so when in the past people have talked about government, this one word was sufficient enough for all the three words. Government is there, that is the structural part. They will have the functional component, and whenever they will function, they should function in a more pragmatic and ethical manner. That is in the interest of public. But what has happened over a period of time, as the democracy has flourished and evolved over a period of time, we have witnessed that functional aspect has been forgotten, and people have just involved in maintaining the power, okay, without even giving a different functional aspect or the intention for which the state is created. State was created, institutions was created, but on the implementation and delivery side, there was a lacking. So the debate has to be shifted from creating the institution to delivery of institutions. So therefore, the thrust was made on the government to governance. समझ में आ रहा है? The thrust was made. ऐसा नहीं है कि गवर्नमेंट जिन्होंने बोला था उन्होंने गवर्नेंस की बात नहीं की थी या गुड गवर्नेंस की बात नहीं की थी. They implicitly mean it, but then because it has not happened, therefore we have to renew our thrust on the functional part. Okay, let's not create more institutions. Let's now focus on functioning of already created institutions. That is about the governance. And then within the governance, there has to be a good functioning. Okay, that is about the good governance. So it's just a matter of perspective how you look at it. Otherwise, government, when we say, unless stated otherwise, it has to be an ethical government which delivers for the public interest, because always it is being said that the state and the government are created as a means and the welfare of the people is the end. But since it has not happened, we are now coining this term called as good governance in order to re-emphasize on the public service value, re-emphasize on the basic intention behind the government, that is a public interest. Have you understood this? Okay. Now write the philosophical underpinnings of good governance. Philosophical underpinnings. Philosophical basis लिखो अगर underpinnings नहीं समझ रहा है. Philosophical basis. Underpinnings मतलब basis ही रहता है. Underpinnings of good governance. Philosophical basis of good governance इसमें ये देख रहे हैं हम कि good governance, the term is more popularized in the recent time, but nonetheless the idea of good governance and the shades of good governance we see in the different scholars, okay, and their ideas. So that is what we are going to see here. So first write the Kautilya. Kautilya. Kautilya's what is famous book? Yes, Arthashastra. Okay, Kautilya in his Arthashastra wrote, comma into inverted comma, dot 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 करके लिखो, dot dot dot, in the happiness of the subject, in the happiness of the subject, in the happiness of the subject lies the happiness of the king. In the happiness of the subject lies the happiness of king, comma, in the welfare of the subject, in the welfare of the subject lies the welfare of king. In the welfare of the subject lies the welfare of king. Okay, dot dot dot, unquote. Now, can you relate with the good governance? In the happiness of subjects means praja, okay, log. In the happiness of subject lies the happiness of king. So king's happiness cannot be separated from the happiness of subject. He cannot remain happy if the subject is not happy. So what is focus of happiness of king is happiness of public. Welfare of the subject lies the welfare of king. Okay, so in fact this is a people-centric governance. That aspect is getting reflected into this statement. That is a people-centric governance or citizen-centric governance, welfare governance, sabka saath, sabka vikas. Okay, so that's the thing here. Okay, write the next line from the Kautilya's book only, Arthashastra. Dot dot dot, ways of embezzlement. Ways of embezzlement are 40. Ways of embezzlement are 40. What is embezzlement? Looting money, fraud, 420 40 मतलब 40 तरीके हैं, okay, embezzlement के. That is looting money, misappropriation of fund. In a way, it is nothing but the corruption. Okay, so way back in ancient times, he is highlighting this feature. Okay, Kautilya is giving advices to his king that king cannot take this corruption issue for granted because ways of embezzlement are 40. There are n number of ways of going for. 40 is not a literal sense. Okay, he was trying to emphasize that there are plenty ways of going for the corruption. So this is a corruption. मतलब ये good governance नहीं है. He is trying to say that corruption will be there, and he is advising the king to remain alert with respect to corruption, and he should consciously make policies in order to prevent the corruption, because there are various ways of. So this statement, we see that the Kautilya also highlighted the aspects of governance. In fact, there is a much more has been written in the Arthashastra. A very interesting line वहाँ पे लिखी हुई है कि ये जो एसोसिएशन है पैसे का और लोगों का, he has compared with putting a drop of honey on a tip of tongue and asking not to tell the taste of the honey. हनी का जो ड्रॉप है आपके टंग के ऊपर डालो और बताओ कि इसकी, एंड यू शुड नॉट से दैट इट इज स्वीट और व्हाट. Okay, so the association of money and with people is like this. You give the money in the hands of public and say that not to be a corrupt. So he was saying that close association is there. That is, it is inevitable unless and until we try. We try to like create a mechanisms through which the corruption has to be prevented. समझ में आ रहा है क्या बोला है उन्होंने? मतलब he was trying to say that if there will be a power and money, the person is going to be corrupt. Therefore, we need to have an extra care with regard to the development of mechanism through which we can prevent the corruption and make him accountable. We cannot take it for granted that he will not be a corrupt. It is like imagining putting a drop of honey and saying that he will not come to know that it is a sweet thing. समझ में आया? So that's the point. So philosophical underpinning, matlab, we are trying to say that glimpses of good governance we see in the textbook of Arthashastra also. That's the point. Okay. Second, you can write Mahatma Gandhi. Yes, we have already discussed something regarding it. That is a Swaraj and Ram Raj. Okay, his concept of Ram Raj. Ram Raj, this is a vision of welfare state, okay? His idea of welfare state is get reflected into his vision of Ram Raj. Vision of Ram Raj, vision of welfare state. So in this he has talked about the same, something what the Kautilya has also said, that unless and until Praja is happy, the king cannot remain happy. So here the king is a benevolent king. Benevolent monarch, समझते हो? Kind monarch, okay. Not a malevolent, or you can say that the dictator, okay. So even if the monarchy is not antithetical to the good governance, you can have a monarchy, but then the king has to be a benevolent towards the people. So that's about the concept of Ram Rajya. In fact, he was not even favor the monarchy also. He was just talking about Ram Rajya in a sense that it's just, he was talking during the time of Rama. There was a prosperity in the society. Okay, there was a feeling of brotherhood, people were happy, and the society was prosperous, there was a cordial relationship, etc., etc. So he was just talking about during the past, that during the reign of Rama, so there was a prosperous state. So that's why he has used the word, this Ram Rajya. But then he was not in favor of concentration of power. In fact, one of the component of Ram Rajya, he was always favored the Swaraj. Okay, Swaraj, that is a self-rule. Swaraj, that is self-rule. So one of the principal idea within the Swaraj is democratic decentralization. Democratic decentralization. Democratic decentralization, because it is self-rule, it means that every single person is capable of ruling. He can take part in his decision. He should not be ruled by the external authority. When external authority will be there, there will be the component of misuse of power. So he has favored democratic decentralization. He has promoted the Panchayati Raj institutions, that one should have the local self-governance. Panchayati Raj institutions or local self-governance. Local self-governance, okay. This is, we have already stated that this is reflected in Article 40 of Directive Principle of State Policy, and then 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act created the institutions of Panchayati Raj, PRIs, Panchayati Raj institution. democratic decentralization, its manifestation that he has favored the local self-governance, the idea reflected in the directive principle of state policy, Article 40, that whenever it is possible for the state, they should go for the constitution of village panchayat. And that is what is reflected in 73rd and 74th. That is constitutional basis for creation of third tier in democracy. Okay, you must have studied in federalism. There are two tiers. Okay, central government and the state government, and there is a division of power. But in 73rd and 74th has created third tier of democracy, that is about the Panchayati Raj. Okay, so that's a local self-governance. So this idea, because one of the aspect of good governance we have mentioned is people's participation. Are you remembering that lack of people participation was a character of malgovernance, misgovernance? And then we have said that people's participation is at the heart of good governance. So he always promoted that this democratic decentralization should be there. So that idea you get from the Swaraj, and in general, the happiness of public or people's happiness, people-centric governance is through the Ram Raj. Ram Raj is a broader concept. Swaraj is one part of it. Okay. There is a Ram Raj. There are two words actually, Swaraj and Suraj. Swa and Su. Swa is self. Su is good. This is good governance, and this is self-rule. Self-rule is one component of broader aspect of this. Sushashan jisko bola jata. Sushashan is this aspect. This is Gandhi. Now, right, the last one, that is Aristotle likhe. Aristotle. See, the thing is, you can bring any scholar here again, okay, depending upon, if you read anything, somebody has to say something about the good governance, okay, that governance should be this, that, etc. You can bring any scholar. But these are some of the historically famous understandings that therefore we are seeing here. Right, the next, there is Aristotle. Aristotle has classified the government, okay, right, straightforward. Aristotle has classified the government into two ways, or two parts. One he called a perverted government, and second is legitimate government. Okay, perverted and legitimate. This classification depends upon in whose rule the governance is functioning. Okay, here the governance is in the interest of ruling class. Governance is in interest of ruling class. And here the governance is in the interest of ruled ones. Ruling, that is who are the holding the power. Ruling class is the one who are holding. Governance is in the interest of ruling class, and governance in the interest of ruled ones. अगर ruled one और ruling में confusion हो रहा है तो simple people's interest लिखो. ज़्यादा tension मत दे दो दिमाग को, ठीक है? People's interest. So that is a legitimate government. So this is something what we relate to the idea of good governance. Okay, this is a mal governance, what he called as a perverted form of government. Okay, so these are some of the philosophical points of good governance. That idea of good governance was very much present in the ideas of different scholars. Okay, now write the 8 points of good governance. 8 points of good governance. 8 टेक्निकल पॉइंट्स इसलिए क्योंकि आज जो गुड गवर्नेंस है, जो वर्ल्ड बैंक ने डिफाइन किया है, वो जो गुड गवर्नेंस है ये 8 पॉइंट्स में डिफाइन होता है. Eight points of good governance. This is something which has been seen in the contemporary times by the World Bank. The idea ऐसे आ गई थी कि IMF and World Bank gives a lot of donation to the third world countries. Now, what happens when the IMF and World Bank gives the donation? Most of the times, this donated money does not reach to the purpose for which it is being sanctioned, and most of the times it is misappropriated and etc. So they had this thing in their mind that if we are giving the fund and donation, we also need to ensure, okay, sir, ensure that the fund is reaching for the purpose and it should not be misappropriated. And in third world countries, most of the times we see that there are ruling elite, okay, traditional elite class. They sanction the different funds and they siphoned off, okay. साइफंड ऑफ मतलब वहाँ पे स्विस बैंक में चला जाता है, वहीं से आता है वहीं पे चला जाता है, ठीक है. सो द पॉइंट इज द this was a worrisome factor for the World Bank and IMF because they were also facing the long-term issue with regard to the repayment of loans. Okay, so they have come up with this good governance philosophy. So that was the understanding why they were at all concerned about it, and that becomes a important understanding of the concept of good governance in present times. Okay, so just make this diagram. Okay, 8 points of good governance. थोड़ा सा नया कंजूसी मत करो, जरा बड़ा पेपर ले लो, काफी लिखना है इसके ऊपर. छोटा सा बाकी रह गया तो फ्रेश पेपर ले लो, बड़ा डायग्राम बनाओ. Okay, good governance, 8 points. First is rule of law. In fact, this is the most important chapter of rest of all this application part. ये chapter अगर आपको समझ में आ गया तो the whole probity in governance is clear. Second is people's participation. Consensus orientation. Consensus orientation. Equity and inclusiveness. Transparency. Accountability. Responsive. Effective and efficient. Moral, corruption-free, effective and efficient citizen-centric governance. Huh? Equity. Inclusiveness. इक्विटी और इंक्लूसिवनेस. अरे डॉक्टर की राइटिंग तो ऐसी रहती है, आई Yes, ये बहुत अच्छा लिख रहा हूँ ऐसे. We ensure that people should not Google the drug and find the generic meaning. ठीक है. Okay, rule of law, people's participation, consensus orientation, equity and inclusiveness, transparency, accountability, responsive. It is not responsibility. If anybody has written, it's a different. It's not responsibility, it's responsive, effective and efficient. Okay, so these are the 8 points of good governance. Again, it's not about restriction of 8 points. It can be anything. Okay, that is helping for you to become a corruption-free. Okay, or it's a sort of people centricity, welfare, etc. That's why I have given you general points also. So any point which has the intention for delivery of public services from the public point of view, that's a part of a good governance. Where is the corruption free, by the way? इसमें 8 में कहाँ पे corruption free आता है? Because that's a hallmark of good governance, corruption free. Transparency. Transparency. That's it. Accountability or effective and efficient also. सब में आएगा यार. Corruption free is the final goal. The corruption free governance has to be achieved by applying this principle. Rule of law. Rule of law ensures that there will not be a misuse of authority. Okay, so let's discuss one by one, thoda bahut. Okay, just write the first, that is rule of law. इनफैक्ट यू हैव पेपर 3 में गवर्नेंस करके पार्ट है, उसमें ये सभी जो 2-3 लेक्चर्स रहेंगे वो पूरे पेपर 3 के लिए भी इम्पोर्टेंट है. पता है सिलेबस पेपर 3, पेपर 2 में? हाँ, कहाँ का क्या मतलब? हाँ, क्या क्या है बताना उस टॉपिक में, गुड गवर्नेंस वाले उस पूरे लाइन में 6-7 टॉपिक है. हाँ, सिलेबस में देख के बताओ. वाह, मतलब आई एम टेस्टिंग द यूर whether you are literate or not. Governance, good governance, e-governance, citizen charter, transparency, RTI, whistleblowing, okay, accountability, यही topics हैं. All these topics, social auditing, etc. Okay, let's write first, that is rule of law. See, that's why I'm saying, if this concept is clear, then your whole all the things you will understand, what the happening in the governance, why, in which way government functions, what are the lacunas, what are the disadvantages, what are challenges, what are opportunities, what is way forward, okay, what is criticism, what is constructive criticism, etc. Everything you will understand. That's why I'm emphasizing upon knowing the concepts very, very clearly. What is the rule of law? Yes, आपके political classes I think have started. Law is supreme. कहाँ तक हुआ है आपका fundamental rights? Okay. So ये equality before law, equal protection of law, say beyond है something. This law is supreme. What else? Why law is supreme? What is the implication of it? यार इसका थोड़ा सा स्पीड कम करो, आवाज नहीं आ रही है. नहीं, कुछ भी आंसर दे रहे हो, मैं हाँ हाँ वेरी गुड बोल रहा हूँ. अब बताइए. हाँ, a false appreciation will embolden your spirit of lying the things in exam. बताइए अब. अब कोई नहीं बोल रहे हैं. हाँ, yes. More than that, it's a very general when you are saying right and wrong. What else? When law is supreme, what do you mean? Everybody is under the law. Okay, there is no arbitrary use of authority. Okay, see, the thing is, when we talk about the rule of law, it means that even when the government is formed, even when the state is formed, okay, हर एक के लिए लिखा हुआ है कि which organ will do what thing, and they cannot do beyond that. If they do beyond that, then there will be a sanction against them. So rule of law ensures not only it creates the power and authority, but it also ensures that there will be a legitimate use of that power and authority. In modern times, this rule of law is represented in the form of constitution. Okay, constitution, see the first, do not write anything, just understand first. Rule of law, when we talk about that in present times, it is reflected in the form of constitution. So constitution में ये लिखा रहेगा कि what is the state? So state has three organs, that is executive, legislature plus judiciary. They will talk about their functions also. So this is a structure, this is a function, and they also put limitations also, that you can do this much, this much, this much, and judiciary is there to see that if you are going beyond your stipulated mandate, then judiciary will struck it down. Okay, they will ensure that what is written in the rule of law, only that much is being used. So there is no absolute power given to the government. Okay, there is no absolutism that as per their whims and fancies, they cannot take any and everything decision. They are mandated with the rule book. So that is about the rule of law. So law is supreme, not a person. Now rule of law can happen also in monarchy. It's not necessarily in a democracy. Okay, if a monarchical form of government is there, a single person should rule, but then he should rule on the basis of guidelines. It can be a democracy where there is a collective representation in the form of council of minister or cabinet, so that they also can rule, but it is on the basis of. So it can be a monarchy, it can be oligarchy, it can be democracy. It can be anyone. Just the thing is, you have to ensure the rule book. And no person is above the law. That means a person cannot go beyond the mandate that is given. So in fact, this will ensure the misuse of power. That's why we are talking about here as a fundamental. In fact, rule of law is also known as constitutionalism. Okay, or it is also known as limited government. Okay, the term limited government is not in a negative sense. Limited government means government can use they have the limited functions. Okay, beyond that they should not use the power. Okay, so the right rule of law. The rule of law doctrine, the rule of law doctrine stipulates that the rule of law doctrine stipulates that governance should be in accordance with the law, or that is in bracket rule book. Governance is in accordance with the law or the rule book. The basic rule book for every country, in modern times is constitution. The basic rule book for every country in modern times is constitution. Okay, rule of law ensures protection against arbitrary use of power. Rule of law ensures protection against arbitrary use of power or misuse of power. Arbitrary use, as per whims and fancies, person can take any decision, so it will ensure that this decision will not be a valid one. Okay, so it ensures the protection against the arbitrary use of power, and it also ensures protection of fundamental rights of citizens against the state. It ensures the protection of fundamental rights, or whatever the rights they are there. Okay, it ensures that against the state. So if you see, one is the ruling class, one is the people. So it ensures that there will not be a misuse of power, on one hand, and on the other hand, it protects the fundamental rights that they cannot be taken away by the arbitrary power. So that is called as rule of law. Okay. Independent judiciary, right, in the next line. Independent judiciary is an important characteristic. Independent judiciary is an important characteristic of functioning of rule of law. Functioning of rule of law. Okay, because it ensures that is, if anybody cross the jurisdiction, the judiciary will, like through the judicial review, okay, ensures that rule of law is followed. Okay, now this rule of law doctrine, okay, if you want to write just obliquely, that is, although it is a part of your polity part, that is, it is also called as constitutionalism. Constitutionalism means that is, you rule based on the constitution, okay, or it is also called limited government. Okay, there is a person called as John Locke. Okay, there is a philosophy of John Locke. जरूरत नहीं है, लेकिन आपको ठीक है, आप लिखे थोड़ा सा. John Locke has given this doctrine of limited government. Okay. So this is a rule of law. Now next you can write, that is people's participation. People's participation. See, every time you should also not lose your eyesight on why this has to be a feature of good governance. Okay. Rule of law, why it has to be? Because it curtails the power and it ensures the legitimate use of power for the public interest. Now, people's participation, why people's participation should be at all considered as a good feature, and if there is no people's participation, what wrong happens? Because we live in representative democracy, so what's the problem? Okay, that is one thing. Okay, good. Problem cannot be recognized. Why do you need participation? You can go to the public and ask for them. Feedback, okay, good. See, the thing is, when the democracy started as a direct democracy. Okay, it has never started as a representative democracy. We have seen that Greek city-states ka bataya tha, Athens, Sparta. Okay, in this, people used to gather at one particular place and deliberate and discuss and take the decisions. But over a period of time, two things have changed. One is the concept of city-state becomes a nation-state. So the country becomes a very big. It's no more a city-state. So it's next to impossible to gather at one particular place. There is no Ram Leela Maidan, okay, ki jahan 1 billion population can gather and take the decision. 1 billion, and every day, every single decision. So that's next to impossible. That is utopia to think that direct democracy can flourish when we live in an era of nation state. Okay, that's the one. That is a city state becomes the nation state. Second is the complexity of government has increased manifold. Okay, so in city state there used to be a simple decisions like whether you have the electricity, whether you have the road, etc. Some sort of local sort of governance. But when it becomes a nation state, there are a lot many complexities with respect to issue of governance. So because of this too, okay, the new form of democracy came into being. That is a representative democracy. In the representative democracy, the role of masses was limited to the election. Okay, you elect, and then there will be a government, and the government will take care of your all the interest. So, in essentially democratic government, you have reimposed the trust into the political executives. Okay, through the election process. So election process was the only thing through which the people's participation is ensured in the democracy. But the election comes once in a 5 years. Now, what has happened over a period of time in case of representative democracy? Because there was a lack of people's participation, and once you elect the government, 5 years, there is a insurance for them that they are there in the government. So it has been seen that because of lack of people's participation and people's vigilance, it has given a lot of scope for the corruption, because there is 5 years you are secured. So 5 years you can't do anything, and again after 5 years you can only remove the government. That is it. So the lack of people participation has created a lot of problem of inefficiency, problem of corruption, problem of lack of feedback, etc., and number of problems. So from representative, in fact, representative democracy sometimes been criticized as tyranny of majority. Okay, the majority becomes the rule, and therefore whatever the majority thinks, okay, in India it becomes all the more difficult, because when we talk about majority on the floor of the house, we have to also see the sort of election system in India. Election system in India is not a majority system, it is a first past poll system. First past poll system में क्या होता है? You just have to be extra vote than the rest of the candidates. You need not have to secure 50% of votes. How much you have to secure? You have to just secure extra vote than the rest of the candidate. Therefore, sometimes you come into news like 31% of the people's voices are getting represented in the government. So 31% because we have the system. So in such system, what has happened in representative form of government, more fallacies have came into being, okay, and it is being represented as tyranny of majority. So again, there was a discussion, can we bring back the direct democracy? Can we ensure the people's participation? Because if people's participation will not be there, then it leaves the field open for the political executive class to use the power in their own way. Now, again, we are talking about people's participation, and this thing is important. Now, the kind of the democracy that exists in the past may not exist. So, what we are talking in contemporary time is participatory democracy. Okay, rather than calling it as a directly the direct democracy, we call it as a participatory democracy. In participatory democracy, through different mechanisms, we are trying to ensure the people's participation in the governance so that they can act as a vigilant on the government, whether the government is doing fine or not, and different ways and mechanisms of ensuring the people's participation. So that's what we are going to see, and we'll see the tools of people's participation also. So right, people's participation mein, that is, people's participation is an aspect of good governance, aspect of good governance, as it ensures vigilance, on government, which helps in maintaining, as it ensures people's vigilance on government, which helps in maintaining accountability of government towards public, accountability of government towards public. Okay, so people's participation is must. Right, in the next, in contemporary time, there is a thrust on, people's participation. There is thrust on people's participation. Following are the mechanisms which ensure the same, which ensures the people's participation. Okay, so there are certain conventional tools of participation and non-conventional. Conventionally also there is a participation, that these tools still exist, and there are certain non-conventional tools. That is newer tools, you can say that. Now, conventional tools of participation may election. Okay, still we have the election. Election is also a very important tool of accountability, as it ensures the government should at least follow the common minimum agenda, okay, that they have practiced for the, they have promised for the people. Election. Then any other conventional tool? Pressure groups. Okay, pressure groups, or we call it as a interest groups. Pressure groups, पता है? What's the difference between the pressure groups and election में कौन से groups रहते हैं? Political parties. So what's the single most difference between the political parties and pressure groups? Yes, they just influence the government, whereas the political parties aspire to be a part of government. Okay, they fight election. Pressure groups don't fight the election. They don't fight for the power, but they influence the political authorities and decisions. So these are the two different mechanisms through which people's participation was ensured directly or indirectly. Non-conventional tool में अभी जो people's participation है, okay, that is first is right Panchayati Raj institutions. Okay, that is 73rd and 74th. Particularly the direct tool of democracy is through the Gram Sabha. In fact, the Jilla Parishad, Panchayat Samiti and Gram Panchayat, they are also in a way representative form of democracy. Although loosely we call it, these are the tools of direct democracy, but technically speaking they are not, because here also there is a representation. Even Gram Panchayat there is a representation, but Gram Sabha is where there is 100% people's participation, direct democracy. But you can generally, it's been used as these are the tools of direct democracy. Okay, that is Panchayati Raj institution. Then with respect to auditing, you can, transparency, RTI is a tool. Okay, RTI is a tool which ensures the, again, people's participation. Then social audit. Social audit मतलब क्या होता है? हाँ, social impact assessment by people themselves. Okay, this is a most important one. Auditing generally जो conventional auditing है, वो government ही करता था. Okay, government ही policy बना रहा है और government ही cross check कर रहा है. So there was not a very effective auditing. Now government is making a policies and people are cross checking it. That is called as the social auditing. Then write the citizen charter. I'll discuss this in length later. Citizen charter. Citizen charter. Next, right? E-governance. E-governance. E-governance as a tool. Okay, so some of the tools, that is a Panchayati Raj, RTI, social audit, citizen charter, e-governance, etc. Or यहाँ पे right media and social media लिखो. Social media. हाँ, e-governance लिखा है. Okay, यहाँ पे और एक लिख सकते. हाँ, yes. Yes, it comes, okay, not only referendum. See, there are 3-4 words. That is referendum, plebiscite, initiative, recall. Okay, these are the 4 tools of direct democracy. Referendum, plebiscite, initiative and recall. लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ते हो नहीं पढ़ते हो? लक्ष्मीकांत में पीछे दिया हुआ है वो जो क्या रहता है ग्लॉसरी में. हाँ, ग्लॉसरी में ऐसे नंबर डाल के देते हैं, so उसमें दिया हुआ है. These are the tools of direct democracy in contemporary times, although they are not practiced except in few areas such as in Switzerland, or rare of rarest time when a debate with respect to the territorial secession, okay, like Brexit, etc. Let me explain what is this. Referendum or plebiscite is generally is used interchangeably, but there is a small difference between the two. Referendum is in taking the public opinion on any issue, any government issue. Taking a public opinion on any government issue, that is called referendum. But when it comes to the territorial dispute, territorial, that is autonomy, then it is called as plebiscite. जैसे कश्मीर के ऊपर जो वर्ड है plebiscite, okay? But again in contemporary times they are used interchangeably, because आयरलैंड के टाइम में वो जो यूज हुआ था, आयरलैंड में हुआ था 2 साल पहले. Okay, so that was people called referendum, but technically it is a plebiscite because it is about, that is exit of with respect to Ireland from the Britain. Okay, so referendum and plebiscite almost same, which help you to take the opinion of public on a particular issue. Okay, demonetization होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए through the app. Okay, but that's a very different way of referendum when only a few percent of population can have the Android smartphone in their hand. Okay, that's not a true referendum, you can say. True referendum is first you ensure that whether the every single person has that mechanisms to ensure that participation. Initiative. Initiative is people propose the bill. Okay, generally bill as proposed in India in the parliament. Okay, private members bill and public bill. Private members bill is any member of parliament propose it. Public members bill is government propose it. Initiative is people will propose the bill. Okay, which is again not there in India. People do not propose the bill in India, except in a loose form. You can say during the time of this Jan Lokpal bill, there was a draft made by this Jan Lokpal draft. Okay, that was a loose form of initiative, but initiative is something where people will only initiate the law. That's about the initiative. Recall is withdrawal of government as and when you feel that government is not bringing achhe din. Okay, but that is not again in India because 5 years. In fact, there is a very famous philosopher Rousseau. Rousseau has talked about this British democracy. British democracy, he has said this representative British model of democracy where the people get freedom only once in a 5 years. Okay, you really can't have an option when once you elect the government, you are not free for 5 years. Rousseau naam suna hai? Hmm? Yes, French Revolution. Okay, French Revolution. He was a philosopher which propounded the direct democracy. Okay, he has ensured the direct democracy because in direct democracy, people's freedom is ensured. In representative democracy, people's freedom is gone once you elect the government, and for 5 years you are not free. So that's his idea on the direct democracy and the representative democracy. So he has favored that once in a 5 years only he gets the freedom. So that's about the 5 tools of direct democracy. Okay, so these 5 tools of direct democracy are एब्सोलूट डायरेक्ट मतलब एब्सोलूट पार्टिसिपेशन है यहाँ पे जो है इसलिए मैंने यूज वर्ड किया था रादर देन डायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी वी कॉल इट एज अ पार्टिसिपेटरी डेमोक्रेसी Are you understanding? These are the tools of direct democracy which are hardly used in contemporary time in nation state. स्विट्जरलैंड में इसलिए यूज होता है बिकॉज स्विट्जरलैंड का yes population and the size and this is very very small so you can go for it but otherwise it's not very feasible in the contemporary time. Therefore we have got this different tools through which we ensure the public participation, social media, e-governance, citizen charter, social auditing, RTI, PRIs, etc., etc. Okay, so that's about the people's participation. People's participation के significance बहुत अलग है. First, it ensures the vigilance. Vigilance से क्या होता है कि there is a less scope for the misuse of powers. This will ensures the effectivity and efficiency because you give the feedback. You also add something to the policy, so more efficient policies will be ensured. In fact, larger part is it's also empower the people. Once the people's participation is there, they get aware of government policies, they take part in the decision making. So this is also an empowerment. I said in one class that real empowerment is unless and until you take part in the decision. Women empowerment के time में बताया था. Okay, Amartya Sen के time में भी बताया था that we are discussing about the this aspect of social equity and socio-economic justice. Okay, that Dwarkin has talked about resource allocation, but Amartya Sen says that resource allocation will only make the people dependent. Okay, if you want a sustainable development, okay, you have to empower the people. Okay, so that real empowerment is about the decision making, but that's not just the only one way. People's participation. Okay, now come to the consensus orientation. Yes. नहीं लूज वही है मतलब इट्स मोर ऑफ वर्ड्स आर रिलेटेड विद द पर्सपेक्टिव ऐसे कुछ नहीं है एनी काइंड ऑफ टेरिटोरियल डिस्प्यूट्स ओके वी कॉल प्लेबिसाइड बट जनरली सेसेशनिज्म वाला ही रहता है वो जो नेशन स्टेट के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में है इंटरनेशनल कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ठीक है बट हाँ यस सोशल ऑडिट हमें आधा घंटा डिस्कस करना है, बाद में टॉपिक है ये, सब टॉपिक से आगे, ठीक है। सो विल डिस्कस अबाउट इट। एमजी नरेगा में लीगल है सोशल ऑडिट करना, ठीक है। एमजी नरेगा का जो ऑडिट, विल डिस्कस इन लेंथ अबाउट इट। कंसेंसस ओरिएंटेशन, हाँ सोशल ऑडिट यही दिखेंगे हम अभी। आई डोंट वांट टू ब्रेक दिस हियर, ओके। राइट द कंसेंसस ओरिएंटेशन, हाँ यस सर्टेनली। वो भी प्रेशर, नहीं तो वो प्रेशर ग्रुप नहीं है, वो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी है। एमएनएस इज अ पॉलिटिकल पार्टी। Once you start taking part in an election, it is a political party. Okay, and if you are just like all the sort of pressure groups, caste-based, religion-based, economic-based, student organization is pressure group, trade unions are pressure group, teachers association are pressure groups, the FICCI is a pressure group on economic side, CII is a pressure group. Okay, caste-based बहुत सारे organization है, religion-based बहुत सारे. So these are the pressure groups. ठीक है, RSS is a pressure group. Bajrang Dal, RSS, Hindu Mahasabha. Okay, if at all anybody is fighting election, then it becomes political party. They have the political party on their front, so they have to be a pressure group only. Everything in India, there is a problem with respect to pressure group. That's the irony of Indian society. Pressure groups in Western societies are autonomous groups. They can completely enjoy autonomy. Therefore, they influence they truly represents the public interest, and they articulate the public interest and influence on the government so that government can act in their favor. But in India, the pressure groups, every single pressure groups is related with political parties, so they don't have true existence of their own. They work on the guidelines of their parent political parties. Are you understanding? Like ABVP is a direct wing of BJP. NSIU, क्या नाम है उसका? NSUI. Okay, that's a direct wing of Congress. Okay, likewise, we have the different groups. In case of trade union also, you see the same thing, ITUC, INTUC, okay, Bharatiya Kisan Sabha, and etc., etc. So every single political party also have trade associations, workers associations, students group. So since they do not enjoy the autonomy, there is a problem with respect to pressure groups in India. They do not really able to influence the government in the interest of public. It becomes a more of a cadre and extended wing of a political party. Okay, farmers associations. See, the thing is, the problem with respect to this, once a bill is there which is against the interest of farmers community, think of land acquisition bill, and the farmers association is there. Farmers association has a direct contact with political party, and they will direct say that you take back the protest. Are you understanding? So they do not really enjoy the autonomy. Same thing happens when there is an inflation, petrol rise, and etc. One group of people, say for example, BJP has announced certain hike in the petrol price. The political party of Congress will inform their worker class, that is ITUC, that you come on the streets. So they come on the streets when it is a BJP. When BJP will be not in power, they inform their pressure groups. So actually the worker class in itself are not united. Are you understanding? So they are more of, again, extension of political wings. That's why in India the policy formulation becomes very difficult with respect to pressure groups. In Western societies, there is a tremendous pressure on the government because of the pressure groups. Okay, that is a, if there is an environmental pressure group, so they have the lot to think about it before taking any particular decision. Right, the second is, third is consensus orientation. Consensus orientation. Now this is again important point, as in when we are saying about welfare of people should be the goal. Welfare of people, people means all the people. It should not be section of people. When we say welfare of people, it means all. Okay, now the point is, in democracy, decisions are taken by two ways. In democracy, how the decisions are being made? By majority. Now, what does it majority means? That is, you just have to ensure 51 people in your favor, 51 by 49. It can be 60, 40, 70, 30, 80, 20, 90, 10, etc. Okay. Minimum thing, that is, you have to ensure. So when you go by the consensus majority, it means that the minorities' interest may not be always articulated. When you take the majority as a criteria for the decision-making process. That's why this various scholars have even termed this as a tyranny of majority. Tyranny of majority में क्या होता है? Majority's interest will get reflected, but it does not ensure that minority interest is getting articulated. So good governance philosophy says that decision maybe you have to take. I'll come to what to do with the majority, but it should have a consensus orientation approach rather than this number basis majority approach. Now, what is the consensus basis? Technically speaking, when we say the consensus, it means that all should agree. But here the word uses consensus orientation. They also know that democracy does not run when 100% of the people should agree upon something, then no decision can be made. Consensus orientation is something that if there are different groups of society, you just make an attempt in order to bring them on a common platform and discuss with them before making the decision. समझ में आ रहा है? Consensus orientation. Different section of the society, or for that matter, different section get represented by different political parties and pressure groups. So before taking a decision, different opposition parties, different pressure groups has to be consulted so as to make the decision. Now there are good advantages of this also, because if you take the decision this way, you get a less sort of, it will help you in implementation also, hassle-free implementation, because the decision has already been taken prior with a consultation of different people, so they have agreed. Most of the time we see that people are not taken into consultation, therefore even when the government is taking any kind of decision, these people will feel that is relatively cheated, okay, and therefore they protest about it. So it becomes a counterproductive even when the decisions are being made without the consultation. Not just about for effective implementation, but when we say about its people should be at the heart of government, it does not mean only the majority is at the heart of government. People means that all the people. So consensus orientation ensures that the interest of different section of the society get represented in policy formulation process. So right, consensus orientation. Decisions in government should be taken based upon consensus. That means government should make attempt to evolve broader consensus in society. Government should make attempt to evolve broader consensus in societies. Make an attempt to evolve broader consensus in society on different issues. Before taking any decision. Before taking any final decision. This is all the more important, right? This is all the more important in a heterogeneous society like India. Wherein different sections and groups of society, where different sections / groups of society have different interest. Therefore, there has to be a consensus orientation. Okay. Again, I'm seeing that majority made decision लिया जा सकता है. Say for example, there are 10 points of a particular issue. After consensus, you may drop 2 or 3 and go ahead with the 8, where there is no consensus. Okay, so if this is a consensus, then it will be easy that people will also feel that they have been taken into account. Like most of the times you see the opposition which is coming from the parliament, and what they say, they know that they are in democracy, therefore majority is going to rule, policy, law, etc. But if you really hear them, they say that government has not taken us into consideration. So they know that ultimately the decision is going to happen as per the majority only. But the thing is, we have not been taken into account in a sense that our views have not been heard, our views have not been articulated, because that's also represent the some section of the society. So what is important is you have to build a consensus and find the common platform through which you interact, and this is a sort of a political culture that is required to be developed. When you go by the majority, you can technically you are right. Okay, on the basis of the idea of majority, you are right. But then the good governance is about not excluding a section of society, and particularly in heterogeneous society, it becomes all the more important, because it's not just about the number of people who are ignoring. Because if there is a homogeneous society, it means that everybody's interest is same and they have. Here, in heterogeneous society, it means that because of their different culture, socioeconomic status, tribal status, etc., etc., there can be a different interest also. Okay, so that's about the consensus orientation, right? The next, yes, consensus orientation, yes, slow process. Hmm. 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 Yes, in triple talaq, why triple talaq? UCC जो bigger issue है, uniform civil code. Now think of, if you impose from external authority, there will be a more backlash. Are you understanding? Uniform civil code cannot be imposed from top. It has to be, first, people should be made aware. Like say for in case of triple talaq, you need to make them understand that triple talaq is not against a religion. It is more for with respect to gender equality. But if you are trying to impose, and also it is uniform civil code, at the same time, triple talaq is not the single most issue of uniform civil code. Uniform civil code has tens and thousands of different issues. There has not been yet agreement with respect to what should be the content of uniform civil code. Uniform civil code, there are certain problems with respect to the Hindu laws also, patriarchal laws, the problem with respect to the inheritance, problem with respect to property right, problem with respect to Hindu divided, undivided family, HUF जिसको बोला जाता है, ठीक है? So that also didn't revise. In case of Christianity, there are issues with respect to the divorce, because unless and until 2 years of, I think 3 years of period is there, 2 years of period is there. Okay, so that is again a problem with there. Okay, so different religion has the intrinsic problem. So if you are singling out one particular thing and then trying to impose, then that becomes a create and chaos. Are you understanding? When you bring uniform civil code, you have to build a consensus. Okay, you have to make them understand the rationality behind the bringing this this particular code. Okay, and then you can go ahead with it. In demonetization case, see, the thing is, if it has to be an issue with respect to a black money, okay? So certainly, if something has to be done secretly, a consensus is of no value. Are you understanding? If something like a black money is there, if it is of no significance to evolve, because something there is a component of secrecy is there. Because if you evolve the consensus, then there is no significance of it. But the point is, demonetization is, there is a question, how much is the direct relationship between black and demonetization? Only less than 5% of the money, what we call a cash form, is in the black money. Are you understanding? Less than 5% of is in the cash form. That too also, the statistics are age-old statistics. There is no contemporary statistic. Now there can be a separate debate altogether whether this demonetization is only just for the sake of black money or there are other interests which are involved. Are you understanding? Now, if now rest of the things now come into the picture, certainly you have to also see that what are the negative implications or long-term implications, or this, say for example, the hurdles that we see. In such cases, everybody is a stakeholder, particularly the the people at the bottom of pyramid, okay, who have been honestly paying. They are the stakeholders. Now they are the sufferers. So in such cases, obviously, you should have built the consensus. समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? If it has to be a which is affecting B, which is black money, I don't think so that there can be a building of consensus. But here there was not an issue with regard to that. If it would have been, there are 2 years back there was a white draft or white paper on the black money. White draft on black money, उसमें DTTA जैसे डबल टैक्स अवॉइडेंस ट्रीटी, उसमें है MLA, दैट इज म्यूचुअल लीगल एग्रीमेंट, उसमें काफ़ी सारे इश्यूज हैं. उसमें तो आपको तो सीक्रेटली, जैसे ये है ना मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग के केसेस हैं. मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग, यू अंडरस्टैंड, दैट इज द प्रोसेस विथ विच द ब्लैक मनी इज कन्वर्टेड इनटू व्हाइट. ओके, सो इन दोज केसेस ऑब्वियसली there is a direct correlation we see, but the demonetization has the different components. Okay, so those different components which affects the people, so obviously they are the important stakeholders. Okay. Kashmir issue, yes, 370 also. 370, see, the thing is 370, you can talk about integration, but first we have to make them feel that there is a good future with India. Okay, once you make them psychologically integrated, then you can bring about 370 also. ठीक है, तो उसके पहले क्या है, आर्म फोर्सेस स्पेशल पावर एक्ट, which is something which they feel now is a situation where there is a complete disconnect. If you impose the 370, take off the 370 from outside, there will be a more counterproductive things. Okay, and even the government knows well about it. Even they came on the 370, but they haven't touched the 370 because that's an understanding. We have to build a trust between the people first. Once the trust is there, you make them understand what is the benefits of having and not having 370, and then accordingly you have to take the decision. Okay, so the ground reality cannot be at all ignored while taking the decisions in democracy. Okay, because ultimately implementation of the decision also matters a lot. And implementation, how does it matters that you had a good intention when the disaster has happened on the ground? In democracy, it's important. समझ में आ रहा है ये? ठीक है? So come to the equity and inclusiveness. ग्राम सभा, yes, it can be anything. Yes, ग्राम सभा में वहाँ पे consensus can be brought at even the topmost level and the bottom level also. Topmost level, you have to bring political parties and pressure groups, their representatives, and discuss about the issue. That is the thing. Yes, equity and inclusiveness. Equity and inclusiveness. ऐसे लगेगा कि कौन सा डिसीज हुआ है. In fact, see, the thing is, all the 4 things and 8 things are related. Rule of law क्या कर रहा है कि रूलिंग क्लास की अथॉरिटी कम कर रहा है, पीपल्स का प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ राइट्स बढ़ा रहा है. Second is people's participation. Again, people's participation is ensuring because people is important. Third is consensus building. Within the people, not a single group of people are important, all people are equally important. And lastly, that is the equity and inclusiveness. That also ensures particularly the weaker section of society. We have seen that is what is equity? That is distribution of resources based upon the capacity and the need. And inclusive, now the UPA has invested almost 1 decade on this word. Okay, ruling on this world. Okay, that is inclusive. That is bringing all the section of society into the growth. That is growth and inclusive growth. Okay, we have seen that the part of. So right, the social equity and inclusive. Equity involves the distribution of resources. Equity involves the distribution of resources on the basis of need of different section of society. On the basis of need of different section of society. Different section of society. Okay, this, if principle of equity, principle of equity ensures weaker section of society getting more resources as compared to stronger ones, so as to bring weaker section at par with stronger ones. So as to bring weaker section at par with stronger ones. Okay. See, the thing is, equity is not just about the resource distribution में ये principle, ये किस में भी principle हो सकता है. Equity is simply that you do not consider all are equal, you consider the socio-economic position of different people and then accordingly frame the policies. So there can be different policies. Okay, it's not just about resource distribution, any kind of a policy which takes into account the social status of group of people and accordingly frame the policy. That is a principle of equity rather than considering all of them are equal. Okay, so that is the equity. So in fact, that's equity will ensure the inclusive growth. Okay, right? Just inclusive growth is a growth. Inclusive growth is a growth which ensures all-round development, of all sections of societies. All-round development of all sections of societies. Including the weaker ones. Including the weaker and marginalized ones. Including the weaker and marginalized ones. Okay, such as this women, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, etc., all different sections. You must be knowing this Gini coefficient. What is the Gini coefficient? क्या होता है? हाँ, 0 to 1. See that there are two different words when we discuss. The poverty can be measured in absolute sense, and it also can be measured in relative sense. Relative and absolute. Gini coefficient is relative or absolute? That's why I said that whether it measures the poverty or what does it measures? Yes, distribution of wealth. You have to be very particular about what we are defining. See, the poverty में क्या रहता है कि below poverty line when we say, we have identified this जो भी line है, poverty line. उसके नीचे वाले सभी poor है, उसके ऊपर वाले यहाँ पे भी है तो वो rich है. Okay, he is not below poverty line. So anybody is top over. This is in absolute sense. Absolutely, this number is poor and this number is above the poverty line. APL जो बोलते हैं, above poverty line and below poverty line. BPL, BPO is business process outsourcing. कहाँ जा रहे हो आप? ठीक है. See, now in case of absolute sense, now if you take, like say for example, $2, okay, $2 तो है नहीं है, $1.5 लिखो. अगर ये poverty line आपने अमेरिका में लेके चले गए, तो you will hardly find anybody poor. But then poverty can be relatively defined there, okay, in terms of inequality that exists between the rich and the poor. Okay, that is the income distribution के हिसाब से. So maybe they are above the line. Okay, but the income distribution may be less here. But in India क्या होता है कि ये poverty तो है ही है, but there is a gap in between rich and poor. Okay, so अमेरिका में भी poor है, ऐसा नहीं है, but then the gap is very less. Okay, so the Gini coefficient is that measures the relative deprivation. Relative deprivation means you are not only poor in absolute sense, but you are very far away from the rich class. Okay, Gini coefficient gives the policy makers an understanding how much the road they need to travel to uplift them, okay, in order to create a, or in order to create an egalitarian society, or in order to remove the inequalities. Therefore, poverty is one word and inequality is another word. So Gini coefficient measures the inequalities, although it is indirectly poverty only, but it is in the relative sense. Even when you will grow above poverty line, but when you think of the rich person, okay, that's Forbes magazine के कई बार ये आ जाते हैं देखो statements कि how many richest people in India and etc. So in fact, in India you will see that richest person on the planet also belongs to our country. Poor तो है ही है, मतलब like malnutrition में India is number one, okay. अरे हंसने को क्या है ये स्टेटिस्टिक्स है मिलेनियम डेवलपमेंट गोल्स सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स सो इंडिया इज अ रिच एज वेल एज पुअर एट द सेम टाइम ओके वी हैव द बिलियनरीज आल्सो एंड वी हैव द this slum dogs also okay so the point is Gini coefficient is talks about it so inclusive growth will ensure the GDP is redistributed okay GDP is redistributed and therefore that ensures the inclusive growth. That's why we have seen the definition that is inclusive growth is a growth which ensures the all-round development of all section of society including the vulnerable section. And therefore we have discussed this in part of socio-economic justice. We have called this justice as a redistributive justice, redistribution of the resources. So social equity ensures this inclusive growth. That's why again, this is an economic aspect of whatever we have been seeing so far of good governance. Good governance is about people and people is all people. So everybody's development is essential and that is what is the point of good governance. Okay? So these are the one part. Now take the transparency and accountability. Transparency and break lena hai. Transparency and accountability we are going to do later because it's we have to discuss RTI here and some other. Just write this two, responsive and effective. Responsive. When we say the government is responsive, what is the understanding of it? See, there are... Yes, according to the feedback. See, the people will make certain demands. People have certain aspirations. People have certain feedback. Okay, so how much your government responds to people's voices? That's about being a responsive government. In fact, it has to be understood against the rigid government. Rigid and authoritarian government is one which do not give any damn to the people's opinion. So people's opinion, people's demands, people's aspirations, people's feedback, how much government is responsive and in fact flexible. Okay, responsive and flexible go hand in hand. Rigid is something they do not respond to it. Okay, so responsive government and democracy, it's again because people are more important. So ultimately articulation of their demands, interests, aspirations, and feedback is the hallmark of good governance. So that's about the responsive. So right, responsive. Responsive government is one. Responsive government is one. Responsive government is one which responds to positively, obviously, which responds to people's opinion, demands, aspirations, feedback, which responds to people's demands, their aspirations, their feedback, their opinions, etc. etc. Since people or the citizens, are at the heart of good governance, people's मतलब कि people's welfare करो वहाँ पे. Since people's welfare or citizens' welfare, is at the heart of good governance, comma, government needs to be responsive to them. Government need to be responsive to them. Since the welfare of the people is at the heart of good governance, the government need to be responsive to them. Now, against this, we have the rigid and authoritarian government. Let me give in certain examples here. When we discuss about this, you must have known 2-3 years back, there is a starting of Arab Spring in African countries. Okay, this Arab Spring was essentially the people's wild opinions, demands against the dictatorial regimes in the Africa. Now, how the this Arab Spring, whether it is Egypt, whether it is Tunisia, whether it is, there are different countries, okay. In fact, Syria is also a fallout of Arab Spring only, where the people were demanding, okay, because they were the authoritative government, they were corrupt government, they were using the absolute power, there were sectional divisions. So people started asking for the demands. Now, what has been the response of governments there? Are they responsive, or what has been? They have been repressive. Okay, they have been repressive, that they have in fact gone and used the guns and bullets against their own people. Okay, now that is a hallmark of the bad governance. Okay, when the people demand something, you should respond them positively. You should engage them. You should articulate. You should have a discussion, deliberation with them. You should hear them. You should listen to them. You should make possible policy changes as per their demands and needs. But there we have seen in case of Hosni Mubarak regime, whether it is a Syria, Al-Assad regime. Okay, so various regimes have ruthlessly used the repressive power, ruthlessly used the public power in order to curb the voices of public, and which has in fact caused a sort of a civilian war in different countries through the Arab Spring. This is an example where we see that that's an aspect of not a very good governance, or that's fundamentally it's the idea against the democracy. Now take an example here when the Anna Hazare was occupying the streets for the Lokpal. Okay, now do you think that the Indian government is not powerful to finish this protest in 2 hours? Okay, guns and bullets also can be used. Okay, we can have also this fighter aircrafts dropping the bombs. Okay. But Indian democracy is quite a vibrant democracy, that where we see that the public opinions cannot be curbed. Although we know that there have been certain clashes and skirmishes between the police and the civilians, okay, in a way to use the ruthless or misuse of the power. But by and large, if you see that we have to use the tear gas, we have to use the water cannons, we have to use the lathi charge, and these are some of the non-combatant methods through which you can despise the masses. Ultimately, what has happened, the government has to, there was a skirmishes between the government was, because it was actually diluting the authority of government, but the government finally has given in and asked the member of the Jan Lokpal or the civil society to sit behind with the cabinet to draft the Lokpal bill. Although the Lokpal bill was diluted form in itself, but then at least this is called responsive. At least you have done something to respond to the people's aspirations. Are you understanding? Where you start taking in measures and curb the voices of public, then that is becoming an sort of an repressive government. It becomes authoritative. It becomes even dictatorial and fascist government. Fascist government, there is zero freedom for the public. Okay, fascist government is just a command and obedience, and anybody who is speaking a word against the society or the government, okay, has to met with the a very negative fate. So that is where we see that difference between responsive and flexible government versus rigid, authoritative, dictatorial, and fascist government. Are you understanding? So responsive is a form. See, you may not agree with the people's demand, but curbing the people's voices. In fact, if you remember, we have spoken about this J.S. Mill. Okay, J.S. Mill, yaad aa raha hai? What he has spoken about, the liberty as a fundamental value which cannot be negotiated with greatest happiness of greatest number. Okay, so freedom and speech and expression, these are very, very fundamental to the intrinsic values for the human being. So that's about the responsive government, and ultimately since the people are more important, so therefore the people are the end and the government is a means. So ultimately their welfare is important for the welfare. In the happiness of the subject lies the happiness of king. So that's the part. Now last is that is effective and efficient. Effective and efficient. Effective and efficient government. First, write efficient. What is the difference between the two when we say government is efficient and government is effective? What is the message in 2 words? Efficient and effective. Which criteria should we use to judge and what we judge in efficiency and effectivity? Okay, what is it then? Yes, output or outcome. And this is optimum use, resources. See, this is with regard to analysis of result, whether you have achieved the result as per your initial target. Let me first explain, then I'll make you right. So, for example, maternal mortality rate है, maternal mortality rate 400 है, ठीक है? मैंने target रखा था less than 100. If I am reaching 125 or 110, it is quite effective because I am almost reaching to the target. If it is remain 300, then I am less effective. So effectivity is with respect to the result. Whether it is effective or not, you have to see the result with respect to the target. Efficiency is with how much resources I have achieved the target. Okay, whether there has been an optimal use of resources. Say for example, I have used 10,000 crores in achieving this goal, and then I have used the 1,000 crore to achieve the same result. So this has become more efficient. That is, judicious use of resources will be checked by the efficiency. A government is efficient when it gives the maximum result with minimum resources. And effective is one when it successfully achieve the targets. Have you understood? Okay, so the efficient and effective. And पहले क्या लिखा है? Efficiency लिखा है क्या? Okay, an effective government is one. An effective government is one. Effective government is one which meets the target, which successfully meets the target, which successfully meet the targets. Effective government is outcome oriented. Effective government is outcome oriented. Okay, so it is judged against the target. Okay, right. Efficient government is one. Efficient government is one which produce maximum results with minimum inputs. Maximum result with minimum input or minimum use of resources. Minimum use of resources. Economics में एक concept क्या होगा? Incremental capital output ratio. क्या है क्या? Okay, ICOR. Incremental capital output ratio actually efficiency test करता है. For one कितना unit increase करने के लिए आपको कितना investment करना पड़ेगा? अगर आपको कम investment है तो you are more efficient. If you are going for the larger investment, so obviously you are less efficient. Okay, so that's also efficiency of your task and job, how much efforts you put in order to produce your outcome. So efficiency and effectivity are the two things with which we can judge the performance of government. This is also performance, that whether you have achieved the target or not, and this is also performance within how much resources you have achieved. So both should go hand in hand. Okay, we should not just clap that we have achieved the result when the bulk of resources has gone for this investment. Okay, with judicious use. In third world country, this becomes all the more important again, because there is a scarcity of resources for the third world country. So there has to be a prioritization and there has to be a optimal use of resources. And for the optimal use of resources, obviously you have to bring certain structural reforms also and certain attitudinal issues in that. Okay, so that's it for the good governance. We'll see the transparency and accountability separately after a break. Okay, so we'll take a break of 5 minutes and then see the accountability. Or should we continue? 5 minutes, okay. Take care. Efficiency is a means, effectivity is an outcome. Yes, efficient way to achieve the effectivity. Are you understanding? Yes. आपका सही था वो सबसेट जो है बोला था. Right, transparency. Transparency. Yes, what is transparency? We have done this somewhere. Where we have done? Yeah. Foundational values of civil services. Yes. How do you define it? What is transparency? पारदर्शकता. Openness. How do you ensure the openness? Maximum satisfaction by? From the opposite side. How do you satisfy them? How do they get satisfied? Arey, come on. जो समझाना चाहते हैं वो समझो. ठीक है. लिटरल मीनिंग लिखे आप. ओपननेस. अब सब कुछ अलग ही लगेगा. Literal meaning of transparency is openness. Literal meaning of transparency is openness. That government is open or transparent. Now, if you see this, we have said that it can be defined in two ways. That is, one who is in the authority, holding the authority, and the one who is from the public side. Now, generally, the transparency is defined from the public side. In the eyes of public, what is the transparency and what is means by government being open and transparent? Okay, that they should have access of information of the government. So you can write the transparency means the public should have, or transparency involves access to public information. Access to public information in a timely and reliable manner. In a timely and reliable manner. Okay, access to public information. Access to public information, whatever the decisions that they are taken, and they should be within a stipulated time and in a reliable. Reliable means there has to be a certain accuracy with respect to the information. So, access to information in a timely and reliable manner. Now, you can write in India, Right to Information Act. In India, Right to Information Act, RTI Act 2005. In India, RTI Act 2005 help in establishing the mechanism of transparency. Help in establishing the mechanism of transparency. Okay, right to information has become a statutory right. Right to information has become a statutory right. Statutory or legal right, likho. Statutory or legal right. Legal right after enforcement of RTI Act 2005. It becomes a statutory or a legal right. It means that the government is bound to give the information. Right to information becomes the statutory or the legal right. for the citizen after enforcement of RTI. Okay. RTI Act. That is, RTI Act ensures the right to information. Now, under this Act, we see that transparency is being established and there are certain issues with respect to that. Timely मतलब उसमें कितना time है, and reliable मतलब if you have any problem with respect to the information, you can go for the appeal also. Okay, so right, so some of the features of RTI Act 2005. Some of the features of RTI Act 2005. How the RTI ensures the transparency. Okay, first you can just write rights under various rights under right to information. Various rights under right to information. So, right, there are, when we say about right to information, actually there are various rights. First is right to inspection. Right of inspection or right to inspection. Right to inspection. Second is inspection. Inspect. You can go and inspect and check the files of government. Right of inspection of government files, government documents. Conventionally, we understand that we have to take a Xerox copy, but that's the only one aspect of RTI. You can simply walk inside the government and can see the files. That's also under the right to information. Second is right to take photocopy or Xerox copy. Yes, it is applicable. Okay. Yes, it is applicable. Okay, right. Second is right to take photocopy or Xerox copy of. Right to take photocopy or Xerox copy of public information. Public information. Third, right to take certified sample. Right to take certified sample of any material. Certified sample of any material. Now, what does it mean? Say, for example, any construction is going on. So, right, transparency is that you can go and take particular cement is of good quality or not for which has been promised. So that is right of availing the certified samples, and you can cross check that sample. समझ में आ गया? Okay. And the last, right to get the information. Right to get the information in various forms. Right to get the information in various forms, such as physical form, that is Xerox or photocopy, physical form, electronic form, PDF files, physical form or hard copies, electronic form, PDF file, etc., audio and video records, floppy, CD, etc. Although it has been redundant now, floppy, CD of the information. Now, this means that in the form the information exists, you can avail the information in the exact format. Okay. So if the information is audio information and video information is available, if say for example a particular meeting and there is of that meeting the videograph is available, so you can avail the information in that form also through the RTI. So there are four. Certainly it does not mean कि टेक्सचुअल इन्फॉर्मेशन है, आप बोलो कि थोड़ा सा क्राइम पेट्रोल की तरह नाटकीय रूपांतर करके मज़ा नहीं आ रहा है मुझे, थोड़ा सा इसको विजुअल फॉर्म में बना के दे दो मुझे, ऐसे नहीं होगा. द फॉर्म इन विच इट एग्जिस्ट, हाँ ये होता है कि मज़ा नहीं आ रहा है इन्फॉर्मेशन में, थोड़ा सा इसको स्पाइस करके दे दो हमें. तो जिस फॉर्म में वो एग्जिस्ट करती है उस फॉर्म में आप इंफॉर्मेशन ले सकते हो. So there are 4 rights when we talk about right to information. Right of inspection, you can simply walk there. Again, first 1 hour is generally free. Okay, 1 hour is free of cost. After that you have to pay the charges. Okay, तो ऐसे नहीं है कि बाहर गर्मी हो रही है एसी के अंदर जाके देखेंगे बैठेंगे. After 1 hour you will be charged. Okay, it's a very tough rooms, the files are there. Okay, it's more of a suffocating thing. Okay, it's not that easy. So right of inspection, right of taking the copies, right of taking the certified samples, and right to avail the information in different formats, right, different forms. So that's the 4 rights through which the transparency is being maintained. Now, right, that is there are certain time interval है, उसके पहले PIO and APIO लिखो. For this PIOs and APIO, Public Information Officer and Assistant Public Information Officer. PIO, that is a Public Information Officer, and APIO, that is Assistant Public Information Officer. Okay, so PIO is the one who takes the application. Public Information Officer, right? First PIO, Public Information Officer. PIO is the person who process the application, who process the RTI application or application, who process the RTI application and give the information. Process the RTI application and give you the information. APIO, Assistant PIO. Now, Assistant PIO is slightly different than what we generally understand. ऐसे नहीं है कि ये डेप्यूटी PIO है या वहीं पे है, ये चाय पानी पीने गया तो ये देगा वगैरह. ऐसे नहीं है वो, ठीक है, लीव पे चला गया, he is sick वगैरह. It's a different thing altogether. See, this PIO, the person has to, like, in many cases, the government departments get in at district level or at Tehsil level. So a person from rural India has to travel to Tehsil and the district. Now the cost of PIO, this is 10 rupees, okay, that you have to give. Now, if we see this situation, he has to travel 100 rupees, come back 100 rupees, so at least 200 rupees plus his daily wage is gone. So in order to help this weaker section of the society, APIO post is created. Generally, these people are in the post office. So they receive the application and they take the application either to Tehsil department, etc., etc. So it's basically the connecting link in between the rural hinterland and the PIO. Okay, he is just a connecting link. So final information will be given by the PIO. He is not a holder of information. It's just a connecting link. So right, Assistant PIO. Assistant PIO is a connecting link. Assistant PIO is a connecting link between the people in rural India, and PIO. Right, in the next slide, APIO will take the application. APIO take the application from people in rural area, and he will pass this application to PIOs, concerned PIOs, and he passed this application to the concerned PIO. Generally, these are the post offices. Okay. In fact, जो postmaster रहता है वो APIO भी रहता है. Okay. There is a dearth of human resource in India, so most of the times this PIO and APIO, these are the additional responsibility given to the same person. Okay. Postman जो रहता है, okay, postman, postmasters, okay, उनको ही APIO designation दिया जाता है that they can receive the application also. Okay. So that's who is the last person? That is a PIO is the last person who has the information. And see, the this is a typical RTI application looks like. There is no format. Okay, in fact, it is one of the act which is most people-friendly act. Here, just you have to write the information that you want to get, and you just have to put your address, so that information will come back to you. That's it. What information you want and where is your address? That's it. Plus, obviously, the 10 rupees. That too also for the below poverty line. There is no fees. Okay, so there is no format, there is nothing, so it's a very simple, it's a piece of blank page. You just write which information you want. You don't have to give the reasons also. Okay, that's important. You don't have to give the reasons. You don't have to get the information which belongs to you. Okay, that's also not essential. Information is a public, it means that it's a public information. Anybody can have any information. So no reason is required, and it must not be belonging to you per se also. So information, which information you want, and address. Now this is where we see that the fees is also kept, and the format is also you can write in a local language also, so there is no language barrier also. You can apply in a hard copy, you can apply in a electronic format. So this is where we see that it has been kept citizen friendly, and once this application it will go to the PIO either directly or indirectly through the APIO. Okay, so the PIO is the holder of information, so PIO will finally give the information. Okay, even in case of API, he gets the letter from the APIO, it's the PIO who gives the information directly. Okay, have you understood this? Okay, now write the time interval for response. Time interval for processing the application or response under RTI. Time duration. So what is the time duration? 30 days. Okay. So typically within the 30 days, 30 working days, obviously, the PIO has to respond to the information. 30 days. If the letter is going through APIO, then you have to add 5 more days to it. Ultimately, your answer is 30 days only. PIO requires the 30 days. 5 days are given as a buffer because APIO will take the letter to the PIO. 30 days in almost all cases, except in few. Again, वहाँ पे उनका ही discretion, except when the cases of life and liberty or human rights, life and human rights are involved. In such cases, the information has to be given in 48 hours. Lekin it's their discretion whether a particular information falls under this. For all practical purpose, 30 days. Okay, it is 0.000001%. Okay, it generally does not happen, but there is a provision that in certain exceptional cases, okay, the information has to be provided within the 48 hours. Whether this information directly related with life, human rights, and etc., they have their own authority to decide whether such information falls under it or not. Okay? So for all practical purpose, it's 30 days, and if it is APIO, then you have to add 5 more days to it so as to give the information. This 40 days and 30 days is with respect to PIO because he is the one who processes the information. Okay, so that's about the time interval. Now, what is a typical response of PIO? क्या respond हो सकता है? You can write response of PIO, and accordingly, what can be the action? See, the action can be, one is respond within 30 days, respond within 30 days, and the response is satisfactory. So the process will get end here. ठीक है? Within 30 days आया है, and response is satisfactory means the person who is getting the information is satisfied with the information. Satisfied मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि वही information है, वो information उसके favor हो सकती है, disfavor हो सकती है. He is satisfied that I have received the accurate information in a time, within a time. Okay, there is a transparency. Whether it is a bad information, good information, it can be, it's an accurate, we have seen the definition, access to information in a timely and reliable manner. Got to know that this is an accurate information. So things will get end here. Now, the dissatisfaction cases may be more than 30 days and there has been no response. This is deemed as rejection. This is deemed to be a rejection. If 30 days have passed and the PIO has not communicated to you, it is considered as automatic rejection or deemed as rejection. He may respond within 30 days and he proactively reject it, that I can't provide you the information for variety of the ways. There can be two typical ways. One is the information has not been preserved. Okay, he has no information. पहले उन्होंने preserve नहीं की है, या this information does not belong to this department, or maybe he says that it comes under the section 8. We'll discuss what is section 8. Section 8, all the information cannot be given. So ये बताएंगे कि this information that you are availing is sensitive information and therefore the section 8 prevents it for giving the information. This is a typical response, but you are not satisfied. Okay, here there is no response, it is considered as rejection. This is a proactively rejection. Proactive rejection में लेकिन उसको reasons देने पड़ते हैं, ठीक है? What is the reasons for rejection? Section 8 है या information नहीं है, etc. Third thing is within 30 days आया है, reject नहीं किया है, he has provided the information. He has provided the information, but you are not satisfied. You feel that there is something not correct, not transparent, unsatisfactory. Within 30 days. So in all such three cases, there is a provision for the appeal. Okay. More than 30 days, no response, it is rejection. There can be a proactive rejection telling that we cannot give the information. And third is information is given, but you think that it is not correct information. In all such three cases, there is a appeal. Now you don't have to go into the detail of appeal, but just remember there are two levels of appeal. First level of appeal तो उसी में लिखी होती है कि कहाँ जाना है, जो later रहेगा उसी में रहेगा. So that's not a fixed one. उसमें लिखा रहेगा particularates में कि who is the first appeal, which is in body. But second appeal, which is a final appeal, which is fixed. Second level of appeal, which is a final appeal. It is CIC or SIC. That is a Central Information Commission or State Information Commission. There are two levels of appeal. First level of appeal to the concerned body which is mentioned in the later. Second is fixed one, that is final appeal to the CIC or SIC. So उसमें ये नहीं है कि State Information Commission पहले और फिर बाद में Central Information. Both are final appeal in their respective domain. Okay, that is in case of Central Information, CIC is the final authority, and in case of State Information, SIC will be the final authority. Okay, so this is how it goes, that response. Now the thing is, after an appeal is being made, there is a course correction that is being made to you. That's for sure. If at all any discrepancy is there with respect to the information that is being provided, you will get a justice based upon the merit of the case. At the same time, there will be a punishment for the PIO also, particularly in this case. See, the 30 days have passed and there was no response. This provision has been created because it creates a deterrence for the PIO to give the information within 30 days. Otherwise, what will happen? He will say that, okay, I don't have information, 30 days are passed, etc., etc. So, और उसका जो deterrence है punishment, उसका per day salary से पैसे कट जाते हैं. Okay, say for example, 30 days के अलावा उन्होंने 35 days में वो दे दिए या 40 days में दिए, तो 10 days का per day का salary एक amount, stipulated amount per day उनका कट जाता है. इसलिए PIO अगर आपने देखा है तो उनके पास एक लिस्ट रहती है, आज किसके किसके कल 30 days होने वाले हैं. He ensures, he calls you कि प्लीज डू नॉट लाइक होल्ड ऑन, घर पे आके आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन दे के जाऊंगा, ठीक है, 3-4 दिन के बाद, अभी थोड़ा सा फंक्शन चल रहा है. सो ही एंश्योर्स दैट अपील शुड नॉट बी मेड बिकॉज देर इज अ डायरेक्ट कॉस्ट amount that is being cut into his salary, provided that the people are enlightened, who knows, उसको भी पता रहता है कि ये ऐसे ही बेकार है, citizen, उसको पता ही नहीं है कि ये है. So depending upon that, generally the NGO people who are availing the information, they have this information, so they take the information within 30 days. Have you understood? So this counter provision has been made. Therefore, there is a lot of deterrence, and therefore we see that RTI has become one act which where we see that the people are availing the information, okay, different sorts of information within 30 days and processing it also, okay, accordingly. So this is just about mechanism because you should know little bit of RTI because this is one of the very basic thing. We are in the 10-year of completion of RTI. There are certain good stories of RTI, but there are certain challenges also with respect to implementation of RTI. The last point you can just write that obligation on the government and government authorities, obligation and duties on the government authorities under RTI. See, किसी का ये राइट भी है, दैट इज पब्लिक राइट, हमने देखे 4 राइट्स है, और किसी के ऊपर ऑब्लिगेशन भी है, स्टैट्यूटरी ऑब्लिगेशन है ये. दिस ड्यूटीज आर नॉट just like fundamental duties which are non-justiciable. Okay, these are the obligatory duties on the PIO officers. So PIO or for that matter public authorities. So this ensures, in fact, why we are seeing both the sides. If you are wanting a right, that is right to information, there has to be somebody to deliver. When we are discussing the aspect of transparency in foundational values, we are actually talking from the side of authorities. Okay, that the authorities should remain transparent and they should not withhold any information unless it is required. याद आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? Okay, from public servant sides there is a duty. So here at organizational and departmental level, what are the things? The first thing is there has to be a compulsory appointment of PIOs and APIs, right? That first is compulsory appointment of PIOs and APIOs in different departments, ministries. Compulsory appointment of PIOs and APIOs in different departments, ministries, etc. That is, this is related with institutional creation of infrastructure. Every department and ministry should have PIO and APIO. Second, no, not in private sector, government only, not in private sector. Okay. Second is related with the every department and ministries should maintain the information in electronic format. Every department and ministry should maintain the information in the electronic form. Third, there should be efforts towards proactive disclosure of information, proactive or suo motu disclosure of information. There should be efforts towards proactive disclosure of information. What is this proactive disclosure? Yes, on their own self. Okay. In fact, we want to reach to the point where the public need not require to come to the PIO for the information. Every information should be available on the site. आपने देखा होगा वेबसाइट में एक कोने में लिखा रहता है RTI एक्ट. ओके, हर वेबसाइट के गवर्नमेंट के. सो RTI एक्ट में वो सब इंफॉर्मेशन ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल रहती है, मैक्सिमम इंफॉर्मेशन. सो वी वांट टू मेक मैक्सिमम इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल ऑन द पब्लिक प्लेटफॉर्म so that people just have to access with the click of mouse and they need not have to come and apply specifically for this. So more and more proactive disclosure, less and less will be the burden through this particular mechanism. So that's about the proactive disclosure of public information. Next is, you can just write that creating the awareness among the masses regarding RTI. Creating awareness creating awareness among the public or masses. Creating awareness among the public or masses regarding the RTI. That is, unless and until people will go and avail these benefits, okay, and only creating the mechanism is not the end of the issue. Okay, you have to create and empower. Creating the awareness that how you can apply this a minimum time, minimum cost, so that you can inculcate the value of spirit of public participation through the mechanism of RTI. Okay, so these are the obligations. Now, analysis of RTI is the most important part. Analysis of RTI. See, there can be various stories which are written, okay, with regard to RTI. One of the most important or powerful act post-independence. Rahul Gandhi is right, at least in one case, that RTI has empowered the people. Yes, RTI has really helped in empowering the people. Now, first, पॉजिटिव एस्पेक्ट्स लिखो, जनरल पॉइंट्स लिखो, आप स्टोरीज कितने भी लिख सकते हो. फर्स्ट, इट हैज हेल्प्ड इन क्रिएटिंग द ट्रांसपेरेंसी. It has helped in bringing the transparency in governance. It has helped in bringing the transparency in governance. Can it also help in bringing the accountability? Yes, because transparency hai to obviously people will get the information. This information they will put in front of government, that why you have done this, why you have not done this. So this is in fact the first stage for the accountability. So it has helped in maintaining the accountability. Okay. It has also helped in bringing the informed public opinion. Informed public opinion. You understand this? Informed public opinion. Okay, public opinion is based upon certain information. Okay, informed public opinion इसको ऐसे भी लिखा जाता है. It has created the informed citizenry. Informed citizenry means they are the more rational citizen rather than the parochial subjects. Subject or citizen में क्या difference है? Subjects are just a praja sort of thing. Okay, citizens are more aware. These are the enlightened citizens, more informed. So tomorrow, if they go for the voting, okay, they will see the common minimum agenda, performance of government, etc., rather than going in hangover and pressing some button. Okay, समझ में आ रहा है कि यहाँ पे जब जाते हैं तो रात के हैंगओवर में जाके झाड़ू को मार दिया, लोटस को मार दिया, पंजे को मार दिया, समझ में नहीं आ रहा है किसको मार रहे हैं. आजकल वो इलेक्शन कमीशन में भी वो देखे जाते हैं. अब जैसे झाड़ू है तो वहाँ पे टॉर्च बनाई जाती है और वैसे 4-5 सिंबल क्रिएट किए जाते हैं. लोटस है तो लोटस जैसे 5-6 सिंबल क्रिएट है, तो वो देख के मार के आ जाता है. ठीक है, दिस वेयर हाउ द इन्फॉर्म्ड सिटीजनरी, ये एक विजन है. ठीक है, दैट ही विल लुक फॉर द मोर परफॉर्मेंस एंड एक्सेट्रा. So this is in fact leads to the substantive democracy, not just the procedural democracy. Substantive democracy. Substantive democracy. Democracy के दो types broadly जो बताए जाते हैं, procedural democracy and substantive democracy. We generally say that we are very democratic, but certainly we are not a very substantive democracy. India is not a substantive democracy. It is more of a procedural democracy, that we have a election. No doubt there are regular and free and fair election are there, but regular and free and fair election generally caste, religion, liquor, money, muscle power, these 5 things are the determinants for election. So it's more of a procedure, okay, rather than a substantive. Substantive means there is a lot of meaning to the democracy, wherein through the democratic process public are coming with their opinion and choices. So rather than their opinion and choices, on a very narrow and parochial criteria, the elections are fought in India. Okay, समझ में आ रहा है ये पूरा informed citizenry, and then contributing for the substantive democracy. और एक लिख सकते हो people's participation. There's one tool अभी देखा था people's participation. RTI helps in people's participation. And last लिखो empowerment of people. Empowerment of people, they are getting more aware about the government things. People's participation. RTI is one of the tools which ensures the people's participation. Participatory democracy बताया था नहीं? And last one is empowerment. Women have been really empowered. Okay, so that's what the Rahul says. ठीक है, राहुल नाम तो याद रहेगा वाला नहीं है, राहुल गांधी है यहाँ पे. ठीक है. So that's about the positive. You can have, see, this is one of the, I have said that if you bring 10 most important legislation of post-independence, RTI will certainly come in top 10 slots because it has not only just accountability of people, but this public service delivery में जो भी lapses है, now right from creating your connection, okay, gas and cylinder connection, to the payment of your phone bill, to the any kind of public utility services से related जो भी problems है, okay, people file the RTI and get it more transparent. Say for example, आपका बिजली का bill shoot out हो गया है, okay, you can go and file the RTI and say whether it is a transparent or there has been certain discrepancy with regard to it. So people have been benefited. You have applied for certain things and there is no response from the government within a stipulated time. You go and file the RTI, that creates a pressure. So that has helped in speedy delivery of public service also. Yes, एक और लिखो last में जो है, helped in bringing the corruption-free governance and speedy public service delivery. आपने बैक पैक कर ली, निगेटिव एस्पेक्ट ऑफ आरटीआई रह गए, इससे 2 गुना ज्यादा है वो. आपको क्या हो गया, खत्म हो गई कहानी. राहुल इज नॉट द एंड, नाउ इट इज ए स्टार्टिंग. ओके, क्या लिखा है यहाँ पे? हेल्प्ड इन ब्रिंगिंग द करप्शन फ्री गवर्नेंस, स्पीडी डिलीवरी ऑफ सर्विसेज. स्पीडी डिलीवरी कैसे समझ रहे हो आप? आपने खाली एप्लीकेशन डाला है, दैट क्रिएट्स सम प्रेशर, okay, on them to act. Why a particular function or whatever you are seeking for, why it got stalled, any kind of project which got stalled, you get the information why the process has got stalled. So accordingly it helps in bringing a lot of things, and therefore we see the RTI as a tool. But then there are negative stories also. कब करना है negative? अभी कर लेते हैं. हाँ लिखे. अरे एंगेजमेंट लग रही है जो कल बोल रहे हैं. कहाँ जा रहे हो? चलो कल करते हैं, बिकॉज इट विल टेक 15 मिनट्स मिनिमम. करे या ना करे? ठीक है, ओके, विल डू टुमारो.